Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Brendan Housler with the EVOQ Bike. So let's talk about unilateral strength. Really, let's talk about strength work in general. This is such a huge topic. This is like sitting down and saying to somebody, okay, let's talk about cycling training. There's zones, there's periodization, there's what do you do when you're new? What do you do when you've done this for a decade? Just as your training and cycling is going to progress and grow, the same thing is going to happen in the gym. And I was going to update some athletes on some more lifts to add into their routine or maybe I should say swap out in the routine. And then I thought, well, geez, I do have a template out there of what I used to do in the gym. And then I said, I have athletes that are brand new that need to start with no weight just to do, 6 to 8 weeks of these movements. Where do we even begin with this? So I thought a conversation would be better. I'm going to send this video to people and I figure I'll share it with you guys on YouTube as well. Very quick history of my lifting. I've started lifting when I started really training in 2010. It was very basic. It eventually progressed towards focusing on a hip hinge movement, which is a deadlift, or like kettlebell swings, a squat movement, and all the variations that are there, then a push and a pull, lat pull down, bent over rows. The issue that I have with all of this, so that's 10 years of learning things, is that at one point two things happened. I got more serious about my cycling training, so other activities went by the wayside, playing basketball, running around, doing non-bike activities. It worked all these other muscles that aren't in this plane of movement, right? We're only in one plane. That was the downside, and that's when I started to get this glute injury because just these lateral movements were ignored. The other thing that happened was I was listening too much to just lift more, get stronger, lift more. And while I was neglecting the secondary and tertiary lifts in the gym, trying to cut everything down to 45 minutes instead of spending the extra half an hour getting in all my other lifts in, eventually hurt me. And it's not all about more weight. And I just don't believe that now. The amount of force that we need to pedal really hard is so much less than the amount of force if you are deadlifting 300 pounds, let's say, that I don't think we need to spend the time as cyclists getting that heavy. Or if you can, that's fine, but save the energy and make sure you're hitting these other aspects. When I started going through PT, some of the things that were pointed out were, since we're in this stiff shoe for so long, you might not notice this in the first few years of training, but after I've done so much repetitive pedaling, I really lost a lot of control on my toe. And one of the things that the glute dopers taught me, which I've taken some of the exercises I use there, were instead of just doing rows like this, go up on the balls of your feet and do it. The first time I did it, whoa, I'm kind of unbalanced. And now the balance and stability that I've gained from that also shines through when I'm doing, I want to make sure I don't kick something down here, doing single leg Romanian deadlifts. And the way that my knee tracks is so much more in place that now I'm understanding more of how I can really drive through the pedal with my full leg. So how do we break this down into what exercises you should do? Honestly, you should have a strength coach. Everyone can't afford to do that. I'm starting to work with Hayden Mitchell once I get past this PT aspect. Shout out to the guys at Aries PT, Dr. Bill in Florida, who really helped me realize what I needed to do to get over the hump. Just to be totally transparent, because I put videos out of glute dopers with Hayden, with other people. I worked with glute dopers for a while, many months, learned a lot about on the bike pedaling and posture, but their PT was missing the strength aspect that I needed to get me over the hump. And that's where Aries PT and Hayden came into play. So no knock on anyone's program. A program's not always going to work for every individual athlete and patient. And that's why this is really a conversation of strength that you need to explore on your own with your friends, with a strength coach. It's impossible to have, maybe it's not impossible. This video and what we're going to talk about will not take you through your whole career of strength training, but I do hope that it helps you point in the right direction, and we'll talk about options that you can do throughout this. So This is not going to include a regular deadlift. This is not going to include squatting. And we'll talk more about why. I think building up some other lifts, uh, this just makes me feel like a better athlete overall. And, you know, if you want to still do standard lifts, you could rotate those in on another day, but I would highly recommend you explore these. So, we won't go into the depths of every exercise. Why would you do them? But for example, a suitcase deadlift where you're basically only lifting weight on one side. You're working the core. It's getting that rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, the obliques, the posterior chain, obviously. Excuse me. Strengthen your hips, your forearms, and even some scapular muscles, from what I've researched. But the biggest thing, muscle symmetry. When you do these lifts that are a little bit not off kilter, but unilateral, you're going to notice discrepancies. You're going to be using lighter weight, which allows you to do these, I believe, in a safer manner. That you're going to notice when you're doing, let's say, a curtsy lunge, and I wish I had a better pano here. But you're going down. This side for me is my non-injured side. This side for me is a little sticky, like right there, and I notice the tightness here. And some of these movements, you're gonna say, oh man, do I need to massage there, or do I need to strengthen more there? So I've grouped these into a few different groups. The hip hinge is either gonna be a split stance deadlift. So as if you're gonna deadlift and then take one leg and just slightly put it behind you. So you're doing most of the weight with the one leg. The suitcase deadlift, and then the single leg Romanian deadlift. And you can Google more form on that. It's kind of beyond the scope of this video to go in every one in each detail. The split stance deadlift would be your heaviest one. The suitcase is going to really work on the symmetry of your body. And the single leg will also be heavy, but I think the balance that you get out of that and just driving with the one leg, I have noticed out on the bike when I'm driving my leg and pedaling harder, it just shines through. It seems so applicable to the bike. Now, could you also have a heavy deadlift day, a trap bar deadlift day? Sure. Maybe make that a fourth day. Or we'll talk about how to rotate all these, and I'll share an Excel spreadsheet that I made to track them. Then to continue to work on the abs and the side that I really think gets ignored, either do a cable twist or a side bend with a weight. I've always found those beneficial. Two things that I stopped doing, and I think this was part of my issue with my glutes, step ups. After a while, I just didn't think they were doing anything, and they definitely were. It was keeping my glute medius healthy, and other, just that step up is also that driving force when you're pedaling tempo, low threshold, boom, 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 boom. It's like doing step ups over and over and over again. And I would say if you're starting these out, start at 3x15. Eventually, when you're adding more weight, move down to 3x10 or 4x10. It all depends also what type of bike training are you doing. If you're getting closer to the season, you can't roast yourself in the gym. If you just have an endurance day, maybe you can a little bit. Some people do intervals on lift days, so you don't want to roast yourself that way. You always got to figure out how to blend this in. I said before, I'm trying not to do ads on these videos. Delta G, if you haven't tried ketones yet, you got to do it. Rear foot elevated split squat, Bulgarian split squat. Yes, you're getting that benefit of one-legged squatting. Again, I think the balance and control of the movement is so powerful when you get on the bike. Having that proper posture. When you see those riders that just look like they are super solid riding, that is what I believe we're going to gain from this type of lifting. And then for the pulling action, you can either do like a horizontal pull. You could do a lat pull down. I don't do that as often. I find that the bent over rows on the toes that I mentioned before is really beneficial. Just get ready to row, go up on your toes and do them that way. And then I do like with a kettlebell, just a one-armed, and you feel it in your core. And I go a little bit heavier on that. That's more of my heavy one. Two super important ones, lateral lunge. I ignored this. I ignored how bad that felt. I probably shouldn't even sit down. I should just stand up and do these. But when I went over, it would always feel kind of weird in my knee, and I just wasn't used to it, and just come all the way back up. But I would start these with no weight, and you're going to notice your glutes. And this is something that I do before every ride now. instead of band work or anything like that to activate things, I just do a lot of these with lightweight, like 25 pounds. The curtsy lunge, really beneficial. And then for pressing, I do bench press. I'm doing them with dumbbells now. I used to do bar, but I just like that no arm can be undercompensated or compensated for, I guess I should say, when you're doing dumbbells as opposed to a bar. And then I do overhead press with that, the dumbbell, and then farmer carry, 3 by 1 minute on each side. Just work on that symmetrical aspect of the whole body. Your forearms are going to get really strong. And if you've ever sprinted on your bike and you realize when your arms get a little bit stronger, it makes such a difference. But the biggest thing is that if you go for a 2-minute KOM and you are out of the saddle and you are absolutely cranking on your bars, a strong upper body will make you a faster cyclist. I promise you that. And if you think you're going to get too big and bulky and jacked, go tell someone who's trying to get big in the gym that exact sentence from lifting 2 to 3 times a week, and they will laugh. So that's 7 things. It takes about an hour in the gym. I think that's really well rounded. Other things that you could add in, kettlebell swings. You could substitute in a horse stance squat. You could bring in goblet squats. I mentioned the lat pull down. I don't even put that into my rotation right now because I'm really just focusing on the other 3 that I enjoy doing. But I think, I had an athlete that, shout out Craig. He was Craig, not Polston, Teak. And he was all about unilateral movement. And I always have taken a lesson of try to listen more when someone says something that I don't agree with or that I don't do. I'm like, unilateral. I'm like, I'm just lifting big, man. But I say, I'm going to put that in the back of my mind and try and remember that. So we actually caught up. I said, yo, dude, I've been thinking about you because maybe you're onto something. So where does this sit though? Would I ever go back to bilateral movements? I think at some point, I'm 16 workouts into this rotation. I've had my first 2 hard rides, no pain, no tightness. I'm so grateful to have that. You might be saying, well, dude, is this just for someone who has like a glute problem? I think this type of thing would avoid any problems for athletes down the road. I think it's more well-rounded than just lifting heavy. But that said, would I still ever go heavy and start doing, bilateral deadlifts at 300? I think I maxed out at 310. Right now I'm doing single legs at 105, I want to say. Would I ever go back to that? Possibly, because it's fun, but I think I'm always going to be doing these. So I'm going to send this out to other athletes. I'm going to send this video out just as a way to understand that this is a journey no matter where you're at in lifting. And if you're starting off, go slow, learn the movements. You're not going to get crazy strong in a month, so don't try to. And just play the long game. That's the same advice I would give anyone in endurance sports. This is going to take you a decade to become the best version of yourself. Hands down. You just can't rush it. And that's a great part about this journey. It is a journey. Hopefully you have a great time along it. I said it in the last video about what to do before base. If you don't love the training, it's not going to last that long. So it's hard going out there smashing, banging. I got to go maybe get wet today. I don't want to do that, but got to get better. All right, good luck with your training racing. Check out the blog. Check out the other YouTube videos. If there's a topic out there, we probably have an article or video on it. If there's something that you have a question about, hit us up. Brendan at evoq.bike, EVOQ. Good luck. Talk to you soon.